Alright, hello everyone, and welcome back to another opinion video. As you might be able to tell, it's about Psychonauts 2. I wonder how you could guess that. Anyway, I just finished the game yesterday. It took me the better part of maybe like a month because of the stupid job I have. If it wasn't for the job, I probably would have finished it a lot quicker. However, I have some opinions on it. So, overall, it's a great game. It's a really good game. I just want to put that out there first, because mostly when I do, opinion videos, it's very easy to say the good stuff really quickly, and there's not much good stuff to be said because it goes really quickly. But the bad stuff usually lingers and can be talked a lot about. So I'm going to talk about some of the stuff here that's kind of bordering on the negative side. I don't want to say it's negative because, again, this is a great game. It's just the little nitpicks I have because I'm going to be greatly comparing this game to the first game, which came out, how long ago. But I did play a couple months back, so I still have it fresh in my mind. Now, again, just putting it out there, Psychonauts 2 is a great game. However, there's one thing that happens in Psychonauts 2 that I've seen happen with a lot of other games. Now, again, I don't know if it's because I'm older or if it's because I'm just jaded to games at this point, but Psychonauts 2 is very heavily a story-based game. It is based on its story, not its combat as much as people would like to think. However, I think that the gameplay is passable, but as time goes on, you really just want to focus on more of the story and just get rid of the gameplay. Now, I'll give Psychonauts 2 this. They added in something I've only seen really... Well, I don't really look at much games that do this, but I've seen only Last of Us 2 do this. And that's they added in basically a reviewer mode. If you want to turn on God mode where you can't get damaged, you can. If you want to just, play the game on easy mode and just experience the story, there's sort of an option for that. You still have to go through it, but you basically can't fail. It's stupid proof, basically. So there is that option there, although, I obviously didn't do that option. And there's no difficulty setting in this game, so there's actually a system in the game where you could get pins. And one of the pins makes the game kind of harder. It makes you do more damage, but makes you take more damage. It essentially makes you a quote-unquote glass cannon. And this just, for me, sped up the combat, made it like, oh, I could get past this quicker and get to the story. The combat compared to the first game is, way better. They give you a lot more options, and the enemies actually have depth in this game. The enemies have counters. There's different side powers you could get that counter certain enemies, although it doesn't really matter, and that's the big problem I have with the combat. The combat at a certain point, especially near the end, they just throw enemies at you to increase the difficulty, right? It's not really that difficult. You're just killing more enemies and spending more time doing it, which is why the glass cannon pin helps. But overall, enemies have weaknesses. You're incentivized to use them because you kill them quicker, but you don't need to. It's like it doesn't matter. Really, whatever you do doesn't matter. I spent the majority of combat using two psi powers, Psi Blast and Pyro. And you need to use certain psi powers for certain enemies, but aside from being forced to do that, the combat is really just there, I feel like, to show it's a game and to kind of time gate you, which is whatever. The boss fights are all unique, which I kind of like, although eventually I think they do kind of boil down to, okay, survive the damage phase, hit them, or throw something at them. And I don't know, if you're looking for a difficult game, it's definitely not here. 100%, it's definitely not here. It's not a difficult game. The gameplay is okay. It's way better than the first one because you actually have options, although they don't really matter. But they're not insignificant. So gameplay-wise, it gets a check mark. But I felt like, especially towards the end, the gameplay kind of dragged and it took forever to do stuff. And it's like, I just want to pass this and get to the story. So now on to the main part, the story. The story is pretty good. I'm not going to really put a lot of spoilers in here, but there are some twists and turns in it. The only thing I don't like, and I don't know if, again, it's because I'm not a kid, because I felt like Psychonauts 1 was long, but replaying it, it wasn't as long as I thought. But again, I was a kid and it took me forever to beat the 1 levels, so on 2, now that I'm adult, I kind of flew through them, and I found the whole game pretty easy. But I feel like there could have been more, and the ending especially was very rushed. I feel like the ending, they could have put a lot more in. They could have stretched it out, you doing different things, but you just don't. And it feels like, oh, I'm already here at the end, and it's like a lot of stuff is happening really quickly. Whereas the whole other game, the whole rest of the game, had very decent pacing, and I thought this was going to be a lot longer of a game. Not complaining about the length is okay, but I thought this was going to be a way longer game based on how the beginning and middle is. The beginning and middle really take their time to simmer you into the story, introduce you to like a lot of things, and you have the expectation of, oh, there's going to be like a lot more. And there is a good amount, it's just not as much as I wanted, and the end felt very, very quick. Like, I don't know. It felt like I had a lot of questions of like, how are they going to resolve this, this, and this? And then in the span of like an hour, they resolve it and they answer the questions. Which, you know, at the very least they do. I know some games that don't do that. But this game actually resolves the question. It's just a little quick. And I was like, okay. But another major thing that I noticed with Psychonauts 2, and maybe it's because it's this day and age, the day and age of, you know, 2021 and 2022, because we're in 2022 now. Things are a lot more, I don't want to say PG, but I don't really know a better word. In the first game, there's a lot of dark stuff in that game. A lot of dark themes, you know, a lot of questionable moral things going on, like using children as soldiers, suicide, depression, stuff like that. And that's not to say it's not in this game too. There's definitely stuff with depression and loneliness in this game. But number one, Psychonauts 1, they didn't shove it in your face. Like, it wasn't obvious. You kind of had to look for it and notice it. And as an adult, I definitely noticed it. As a kid, I didn't really notice it. I know the game was, dark. But as an adult, I was like, holy shit, replaying this? Like, how is this a kid's game? This is really fucking morbid. And, like, there's a lot of social commentary in the first game about society and about mental stuff. In the second game, you don't really have to think as much to find it. They put it outward towards you, and it's a lot lighter in tone. Like, I don't know how to describe it without really using much spoilers, but I'll give you an example. There's a big bad villain in this game, and she has killed a lot of people. It took a whole bunch of psychics to stop her. She was an issue. She was like a worldwide issue that everyone knew about, and just uttering her name would make you fucking pee your fucking pants, right? And then eventually when you see this person, this, big issue, there's kids fighting her, right? There's actual children who aren't even officially trained yet, right? They're still in training, and somehow these kids are able to give her an issue, as well as not die to her, whereas she murders entire swarms of people on her own, like just off of a whim. And it's very easy for her to do so. And she caused like all this trauma within the Psychonauts Foundation. It's so crazy. Now, I didn't understand that part. It's so much lighter. And again, it has to do in the day and age we are in, I'm pretty sure. Or maybe this is the actual direction they want to take it. But I felt that's what made 1 unique. 1 was unique because of its darker tone and all these really like morbid, morally fucked up stuff that was happening. And especially with the government and stuff, because they've made a lot of references to what the government does and how, corrupt it is in 1, I feel like. In 2, it's more jokey. It's more jokey, more lighthearted, more just, okay, yeah, we feel good, everything's working out, and it's just a feel-good story. Overall, though, there's still dark parts in it for sure, but it's way lighter. And it's not a bad thing, it's just way different coming from the first one. But I would say this is a really good spiritual successor to the first one. The gameplay is better than the first one, no doubt, and it's decent, it's just whatever. It's not, like, too crazy. The most you're going to like the gameplay is in the beginning and in the middle. Near the end, you're kind of getting, bored of it. You're like, okay, I've done this a couple times already. But the story's pretty good. Aside from some characters I really had some issues with, which mainly was Lily. And if you remember Lily from the first game, the way Lily acted in the first game is the exact opposite of how she acts in the second game. In the second game, she, doesn't care about Raz at all. It's all like, oh, whatever, I don't know if I like you, this, that. In the first game, she was, hard for him. And I was like, yo, what happened? What happened between them? But overall, great game. If you haven't played it, I suggest you play the first one, although it is it is very hard to play nowadays. But if you haven't played the second one and are interested, you should play the first one, then play the second one. It's like night and day. The one thing I will say, though, that extremely, extremely carries Psychonauts 2, the one thing I think they hit out of the fucking ballpark was the environments and the level design. The environments and the level design are so over the top. Oh god, my nose is stuffed from running outside. It's so over the top that they're so memorable. There's a lot more stages than there are in one, I'll tell you that. But the stages themselves are very unique. They do get a little repetitive, but that's not a bad thing because they can't be all unique. Like, there's a stage where you roll a ball, and there's other stages where you roll a ball, although it is different. And every stage has unique stuff towards it. Even the enemies, even the bare bones, like, grunt enemies, sometimes change their look to match the stage. It is so crazy. These stages, fucking 10 out of 10. Amazing stages. The things they do with perspective and gravity and just dimensions and everything, and the stylization of it, it is amazing A1. Every mind in this game has its own style, and the stage perfectly just encompasses it. It is crazy on the creativity meter they went for the stages. Mwah. I want to kiss them, whoever made the stages. But overall, I would say great game. Comparing it to the first is a little unfair. Standalone, it's great. Comparing it to the first, it's different, but still great. Overall, I would say it's better than the first, just not in terms of dark theme stuff. So overall, I would give Psychonauts 2 an 8 out of 10. I think that's pretty good. 8 out of 10, really nice. So, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you like, you could play Psychonauts 2. It's a very great game. Hopefully they make a third one. I don't think they might. They might do it though. Who knows? The ending was open-ended, but yeah, 8 out of 10. Hope you enjoyed.